Do you want a question answered on the show? YouTube comments or X, formerly known as Twitter, or if you want priority access and a bunch of other perks as well, go join the flock over at Subtext, link in the description below, and become a Locked On Ducks insider. You can get a free 14-day trial. Then it's just $5 a month. Dylan asks, is this the best wide receiver core in Oregon history? For sure, top 2 or 3. Stewart will likely have the best NFL career and absolutely embarrass the best secondary in college football by a mile. First round corner and best safety in college football in Denzel and Downs. That's Denzel Burke and Caleb Downs. So I think this receiving core is every bit as good as last year, because I watched Troy Franklin make a lot of big time plays and be wildly productive. And Stewart is not going to end with the same numbers that Franklin put up last year when he had over 1,400 yards and I think it was 14 touchdowns or so. Like, literally the best statistical season in the history of Oregon football. Evan Stewart isn't going to have that in all likelihood because there's this other guy named Tez Johnson. And when you have that as a two-headed monster, and when you have Trayshawn Holden as your number 3, and then he commits an immature penalty, and then he's ejected from the game, and you don't have a drop-off there, and Gary Bryant Jr., number 4 from a season ago, already isn't there. Yeah, I feel pretty confident saying this wide receiving core and last year's receiving core, I'll take either one. Best Oregon has ever had. The talent, the depth, it's crazy. And Saturday was the best individual game we've ever seen from Oregon wide receivers. I don't know what is even in second place. Where can you get the stakes of the Ohio State game, the caliber of secondary you're going up against, and the performance across the board? I mean, Ohio State, there were some coverage drops that the Buckeyes ran where they were trying to take away the short stuff in the middle of the field because they knew that Oregon, in all likelihood, at least I assume that's what Jim Knowles and company knew, that Oregon likes to throw the ball short and over the middle of the field. Well, Oregon then was able to make the adjustment, which is why I talked about Dillon Gabriel's deep balls to begin this show. And they said, okay, we'll take some shots on the outside if you're going to leave them one-on-one. And Evan Stewart and Tez Johnson, time and again, they found soft spots in the zone, they won their man-to-man situations, and they were competitive in 50-50 balls, and we just haven't seen that a lot from Oregon receivers over the years. Like, the touchdown that Evan Stewart had, that's just not something Oregon wideouts have historically done at a very high clip. And I think that they played the best game they could have possibly played. Shout out to Justice Lowe. Shout out to Justice Lowe. He was on the field a lot. I know a lot of people coming into the year thought that maybe Jerion Dickey would be the guy who would be in that particular position, have the opportunity to get more reps. Well, the staff clearly likes Justice Lowe more, and the receiving room talks very highly of him. Tez Johnson says that he's one of the best guys in the room. I think he said that after one of the fall camp practices in the media availability. And based on what we saw, like, Justice Lowe had a catch in a big spot, slipped a tackle, and picked up, 8 yards, 9 yards? I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but boy, every play matters in that game, and he had a 9-yard pickup. Like, being prepared for that moment, I think is phenomenal. And when you factor in that you've got Terrance Ferguson in the tight end position, and I definitely count him as part of the receiving core because he's, a guy catching passes. T-Ferg's awesome. I've been the leader, I think, unofficially, of, I was recently appointed, once upon a time, in charge of the Terrance Ferguson fan club going into the 2022 season. And he has done nothing but be really good over and over and over again. Oregon goes to him in key spots like the 4th and inches. Oregon goes to him on the game-winning field goal drive, where he catches that ball in traffic over the middle, slips a tackle, gets down the field. He looks more and more like somebody I'm going to pick on my fantasy team one day the more I watch him play football. So I think that for this receiving core, it's as good as I've seen. Like, give me one that's better. I am a Jeff Mail stan. He is still my favorite Oregon wide receiver of all time. I will put him up against any wideout that Oregon has roll through, including Franklin and Evan Stewart and Tez Johnson, and I love Jeff Mail. He's just kind of personally my favorite. There's a nostalgia factor, but this receiving core is crazy good. And I hyped him up coming into the year. And just like the defensive line, they've lived up to the hype. They have been there time and time again, and Saturday was their best performance yet. Dylan has a couple other questions. I'll get to those later in the week. But Bobby sent in a couple, And I told you, Bobby, I'd get to your questions today, and I appreciate you sending them in. A day later, many shades of playing Washington the past 2 years with none of the heartbreak, which is very nice, obviously. I agree. Winning, superior to losing. What do you think was the difference? The players on the field, Evan Stewart, or something else? Evan Stewart made a difference. Look, this is going to sound, I don't know if strange is the right word. I don't know if a cop-out is the right word, but there's an element of luck in these games. Luck, chance, 50-50, go either way. Lanning made mostly the same decisions. They missed an extra point, he chased it the next time. 4th and goal, down 6, he went for it and did not convert. In many ways, it was similar. The breaks just went Oregon's way. They made the right plays situationally down the stretch. Joel Klatt thinks, I have to talk about Joel Klatt in a sec. Joel Klatt said he thinks, but also cannot confirm, that Dan Lanning, with a brilliant strategic move to put a 12th guy on the field, use the clock, prevent the big play, maybe. I think there's an aspect of it. Like, the biggest thing I could attribute it to is Dan Lanning is a better head coach now than he was a season ago. But really, it's just, if you play enough games that are decided by three or fewer points, you're not going to win them all, and you're not going to lose them all. That's the way sports work. I don't care if it's football, basketball, baseball, whatever. That's the way it is. And I don't think there's a huge difference. Like, last year's Oregon team was really, really good. I think this year's secondary is better than last season. That might be a difference, but the receiving core on similar footing. Running backs, very good. Offensive line, very good. Quarterback, getting high-level play. I don't think there's some huge change. I think them's the breaks, essentially. Bobby also asked, love the swagger from the team. They had it before, but it is thriving post-game, obviously. I asked you about connection, but we saw it big time this game. Who do you think had the biggest impact on the swagger scale for this win? For me, Dillon Gabriel was the dude for this game. Easy to say as the QB, but if he laid it out, LEI''D. That's good. That's a nice little pun there. I can appreciate that. Jordan James. Jordan James, that guy's a tone setter, because he is what casual college football fans, I'll say, think a Big Ten running back is. He's more than just plow ahead, but you talk about a guy that sets the tone, and you can go at any of those offensive linemen up front, particularly Josh Connerly. I thought Poncho had an awesome game, aside from a couple of poor snaps, and Gabriel was able to corral one of those and end up making a big play out of it. But I thought that Jordan James, the way he ran the football early, I said on Friday's show, Dillon Gabriel is going to have to be good, because you can't be one-dimensional against this team. You're going to have some semblance of balance. And Jordan James, very early, was still slipping tackles. Doesn't matter that he went from Michigan State to Ohio State, or from UCLA to this Ohio State defense. He was still breaking arm tackles. He was still falling forward. He was still running guys over. Like, Jordan James is a force. Absolute beast. And a great, not a good, a great RB1.